Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us on the Atlanta News First desk here. We are cutting in right now to all of our platforms so that we can bring you the very latest on what we know about a situation happening in downtown Atlanta. I'm Tori Cooper, and this is Atlanta News First. So I'm going to take you right now. I'm going to give me one moment here. We are going to bring you a live feed, and because our reporter Yasmina Olsen just got down there, and we're going to show you right now. You're taking a look at the scene on Peachtree Street. Now, this was supposed to be what started out as a peaceful protest in light of the shooting that transpired at a police training center earlier this week. Now, this training center has had a lot of stuff brewing around it in light of the protesters that they call themselves the Forest Defenders, and they are very upset about this police training center that is being built in this area. Yes, earlier this week, a situation transpired where a police officer shot and killed a protester, and then it escalated. And it is, since then, the tensions have continued to run high. There has been ongoing protests about what's happened. This was supposed to be an effort to mourn the loss of the protester. The police officer was also shot, and he was taken to the hospital. We have been keeping a close eye on him, but we have not released the name of the police officer in light of privacy reasons. Now, just a few hours ago, this is when this all started, and you can see Yasmina right there. She's been covering this story, and she was there hoping to just be there for the peaceful protest. It quickly escalated, and a car was set on fire, we're told, on Peachtree Street. We want to show you some of the videos that she was able to obtain while she was out there. This is her Twitter feed that we're about to show you right now, actually that you should be able to see. And we're going to show you some of the images that she was able to capture from down there on the ground. This is not the scene that we want to show, but give us 1 second here. This is the picture of the Wells Fargo on Peachtree Street. She did tell us, she painted the picture for us. She said that at the beginning, she was on the ground and they were filming with the protesters as they were marching down, and then it started to pick up in aggressiveness, essentially. She says that they started banging on windows and businesses, and as you can see at this picture right now, you can see that there was some damage to this Wells Fargo, broken glass, shattered all on the ground, and now live pictures show you where it appears that some flashbangs or something went through that glass there. When we went live to her, there was flashbangs all behind her. Traffic was very chaotic. Fire crews were on scene shortly after the police car went up in flames, the Atlanta police car, and they have been over there now. It's definitely way less chaotic. They have pushed our crews back so that they can really focus their efforts and keep that very isolated, but the protesters, we're told, are no longer there. We're still working to find out if anyone was arrested. You can see that we have police in riot gear. We saw gas filling the air at the time when this was all unfolding. This is to give you an idea of where this is really at. This is near the underground Atlanta by the West End. It was right outside of that area, but I also want to show you a few more pictures of what she was able to capture down there. Let's see if we can scroll down a little bit. Right here, this really shows the main moment that was transpiring. This is when it was at the heat of when investigators and fire crews had to respond very quickly. You can see that APD car that went up in flames. You can see multiple firefighters trying to put out the blaze right in front of the West End. And right now I'm going to take you back live because you can see that they have SWAT officers out there. This is not going to wrap up anytime soon because, again, they want to make sure everyone in the area is safe. If you're just tuning in, let me, again, give you a little bit more background. Atlanta News First has been on top of this story since it started from the very beginning. I'm going to try to take you to our story right now. We're going to keep you on the live feed while I look for that, and just because we do want to make sure that you're getting the very latest on the ground. But overall, this training center, give me one moment here. We're just going to pull that up. Yeah, so it was a GSP trooper that was shot and is now at the training facility and is now in the hospital. We have a story up online. This all transpired earlier again this week on Constitution Road and Boulder Crest Road near Moreland Avenue. That's really where this all transpired initially. Now, the GBI is investigating, and they have brought about acts of terrorism charges for many of these protesters. This has been going on for several months because of the altercations and the different types of situations and that have transpired over there. They have released some pictures of the protesters, and now I want to show you the vigil that we covered just earlier this week. These are some pictures of the protesters when they were out there trying to pay their respects to the protester that was killed. Now, I do want to also mention that this group, the Forest Defenders, they are not from the city of Atlanta. I think that's the part about this developing story that people need to know about. This is an activist group that they call themselves, again, the Forest Defenders, and they are not from here. Many of them, what we have been following along with, in terms of getting more information about the charges that have been brought against them. We have been finding out more on their background and where they're from. And again, none of them are from here. So this is the height of what we have seen beyond what we saw earlier this week when the protester was shot and killed, and the GSP officer was also injured in a shooting in that same shooting. He's in the ICU right now at last check at Grady Memorial Hospital. I do want to try to see if we can get the pictures of the protesters that are now facing charges of terrorism, acts of terrorism charges that the GBI shared with us. I do want to mention, because I know that you guys care so much about our safety out there, and our reporter Yasmina Alston does have security with her on the ground, and so that's one of the main things that we want to make sure also you guys know, that we are trying to make sure that we're covering this in the best way possible. We're gonna take you back to so it was 7 protesters that I believe are now facing those charges. I'm just trying to work a little bit to get that information for you and show you the pictures of these people. I'm gonna just let this sit on there for you. And this is my first time on the Atlanta News First desk. Another thing that was very interesting about this was that what we learned yesterday. Now I'm going to take you to the pictures of these protesters. Come take a look. These are the 5 protesters that have been arrested for domestic terrorism after what happened at the police training facility. That's who you're looking at right here. We're going to keep it on that just so you can get an idea of the 5 people now facing charges. Now, the GBI apparently has no body camera video from the initial shooting that we were talking about that transpired earlier this week. It was on Tuesday when that occurred, and that was something that piqued our interest more because of transparency in these situations, because it could be seen as potential, just one side says this and one side says that, and we get the aftermath. So we did look into that further, and GBI says that they do not have their body cameras on. They have cameras on their trooper cars, but in situations like this, they don't have body cameras on their troopers in certain situations when they're responding. So that was something that was new to us, and that's why we pushed into that. Our reporter Patrick Quinn was the one who really broke that element of this, and now there was a question on whether or not they are going to consider amending that policy. But let's take you back live now to the scene along Peachtree Street in downtown Atlanta. This is what we're seeing right here. Let's see if maybe we can get Yasmina in on this. Maybe she can give us another update. Make sure that you guys continue to keep up with all of our platforms, because we're going to be bringing this live on air as well as on OTT here at the Atlanta News First desk. And we're going to try to get a hold of Yasmina and see if she can maybe pop in front of camera and maybe give us a quick update. And if you're just tuning in, I'll break it down one more time for you. So this started out as a peaceful protest in downtown Atlanta and along Peachtree Street. This is where protesters from the Forest Defenders activist group was returning to pay respects to the protester that was shot and killed by police after a Georgia State Trooper was shot and injured in a shooting. That same shooting after tensions arose and the situation transpired at the police training center. The Atlanta Police Training Center that is currently being built at that site is where this initial scene that has now transformed into a storyline in downtown Atlanta initially started. After the protester that died, the protesters have been very upfront. They said that they will not stop protesting and that they were going to continue to make sure that their voices were heard. They did say that they were planning this protest, and Yasmina really painted a good picture for us because she was talking about what it was like being down there covering this before it all escalated. She says it started out peaceful. She was walking with the protesters and following along with the camera, she says, and suddenly they started banging on businesses, and then it became a lot more intense out there. And then all of a sudden, she says that Atlanta police car went up in flames. I want to show you that image one more time on her Twitter page because we were able to show you that. Let's bring that in just a moment. You can see police are out here right now. We're still trying to get in touch with Yasmina. But let's show you that moment because this was the scene that was out there. If you're just tuning in, this is shortly after that police car went up in flames and fire crews had to respond. Traffic in that area was halted and redirected. This was right in front of the Westin on Peachtree Street. At this time, we do not know if anyone was hurt. Yasmina did not share that information from the very latest. She did tell us that she moved back over to this scene so that this is where investigators wanted to push the media so that they could get a better vantage point and as well make sure that they were not interfering with the investigation that's ongoing right now. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the people and how this has all transpired, the protesters, many of them after the shooting that transpired where the GSP officer was shot and the protester was shot and killed, domestic terrorism charges were brought upon 5 protesters. I want to show you the pictures of their faces again right here. We're learning a lot more about these protesters as we continue to dig into this developing story. Many of them are not from the city of Atlanta, and we're told that they are an activist group. We're still waiting to see, and we've been talking about it in our newsroom to see if we can find out the history behind this group nationwide to see if there have been other domestic acts of terrorism associated with them. We are still looking into that piece. This is, again, the live look. You can see they have caution tape roped all around this area right now. I know that our Atlanta News First reporter, Yasmina Olsen, is gathering as much information as she can. We also were able to get some pictures of the damage to the building that, of a Wells Fargo building that Yasmina says is a result of the protesters and their march. I'm going to show that to you right now. This is the image right here that you can see. And this is right outside the Wells Fargo. You can see shattered glass scattered all on the ground right here. And we are unsure how many other businesses looked like that, but we did see in Yasmina's live look from the camera on the ground, we did see some other businesses. We also saw some investigators going into the doors of those businesses. It would also be interesting to find out what's going on inside these businesses right now, because typically this is when a business or a school or any type of situation like this that transpires in the area around those types of facilities would go on a short, brief lockdown. It would be interesting to know if that's what's transpiring outside right now. They're zooming in so they can bring you a look of the number of investigators on scene. We did see Georgia State Patrol out there. We saw Atlanta Police out there, SWAT gear or SWAT officers out there, and right now, as soon as we do hear more from Yasmina, it looks like she's waiting on some more information. And then as soon as she gets it, she is going to get back in front of camera. Right now, you can see that there's some other reporters outside right here. They're all trying to gather some more information and they may be talking to maybe. I wonder who this person may be. We'll probably definitely learn a lot more about that in a moment, but I do want to continue to let her do her job, and then we'll eventually bring her in when we see that she's in place. It looks like maybe she's in place right now. Should we try to bring her mic full? We're gonna see if we can bring her mic full. Yes? One moment. I believe.
This paperwork that I showed you, it was just weird, you know. I saw the people like promoting before like, about the rent raise, like raising the rent, and they weren't like that. It was, you know, people just trying to get their point across. I guess just bring attention to the issue. But these people were very aggressive. They really like had an agenda. Like I really think to destroy it, or you know, do some things or make. I don't know. Like I don't know. I don't know what their intentions were. I can't speak of it, but it just seemed like it wasn't good. It wasn't positive, you know, at all.
When you got it, what was going through your mind? Like, what were your emotions?
Like, when the gentleman bumped me, I didn't really think nothing of it. And then I looked up and I saw the mob of people. I'm like, whoa, what is this, you know? And then a woman came after the gentleman and I kind of resolved the issue and handed me their paperwork. But it wasn't righteous. It wasn't like just. And then they got Martin Luther King on the paperwork. You know, like something they say, the time is always right to do what is right. But, you know, then it's just weird. I don't know. I don't know.
Had you heard of the movement to stop the building of this police training site?
Oh, that's what she says in this paperwork. I had no idea about that. You know, I don't understand why there would be a problem. We need police for things like this that's going on. I don't get it. It's almost like it's an agenda that, I don't know, it's weird. You know, I've been in Atlanta for like 7 or 8 years, and I've never seen anything like this. I do anti-money laundering. I work for Truist Bank, you know. It's just weird. Like, I don't know. It seems like it's some controlled thing. Like, these people are being funded by something. I don't know what it is. I don't know if they have some type of group thing or whatever it is, but it's organized, you know. They're very organized, and they're aggressive.
When you realized that a car was set on fire down here,
Mm-hmm.
businesses, the windows were broken, doors were broken, and you had just, you know, spoken with some of them.
Right. It's like, okay, I see it. I understand it now. That's what they were on. And to be honest with you, I really think some of those people were involved with, you know, when the Wendy's got set on fire not too long ago. I think those people were involved with it because, you know, down here they were pulling up in U-Hauls and they had the type of glass breaker that taps the window and the glass just automatically shatters. Like, they were really doing it, and they was taking stuff out and doing it in U-Hauls. And, like, people who protest angrily and just doing stuff aggressively, it's not organized like that. These people, I don't know who's funding this, but this is not like just random people getting together off social media and want to make a point. This is some control. This is some type of control. I don't know how to say opposition, but some type of control thing that's going on.
When you saw them, like, breaking windows and causing chaos, what went through your mind?
Like, I wanted to call the police, but I knew somebody would, and I was dumbfounded. I couldn't believe that this was happening here in America. It's almost like some third world country type stuff, you know. It took me back. I had no idea. Like, it was just weird. To be honest with you, it's like I was in shock. I didn't know what to do. You know, people talk about being in shock and they do things or maybe not react a certain way. Someone would say, oh, I would have done this, but you never know until you're in a situation like that. And for me to see that, it was just weird. Like, people just destroying, just not obeying the law and just doing things so aggressively. Like, you trying to make a point, that's not the way you do it, you know? You can do anything. You can get with people who write laws. You can get with lobbyists. It's ways to go about this. This is not the way. You shouldn't do things like this at all. It's not making it better. You're just really enforcing it that we really need police. We need the police. I don't understand, you know, maybe, I don't know about the funding of them. I don't know about the defunding and all that, but we need the police, you know, to be honest with you. And it's just showing, this is facts. They're just proving our point by doing this type of stuff. You don't set up cars on fire, destroy business owner properties or whoever car that was. You never know, they had to go pick up their baby or anything. You know, like, it's crazy. We have to start just caring about each other. I don't know what's going on here in Atlanta. I love Atlanta, but I moved here from Tennessee. I've been here like 7 or 8 years. So it's just horrible to see this type of stuff happen. And then we got tourists, people that's down here, they're seeing all this. They thinking we're just a crazy city, and it's really not like that. Atlanta's a great city. It's wonderful. Whether you go to 5 Points or wherever, like whatever you into, Atlanta can offer that for you. And this is so unfortunate that we have to experience this type of stuff on a Saturday night. You know, people, I was just gonna go have a beer and all this is going on. So this is just crazy. You know.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Glad you're okay. Thank you. Oh, can I get your name one more time?
Darius Underwood, Derrius Underwood.
Thank you.
Can I see the paper?
Yeah, you can have it.
Well, actually, can I get you like holding it up?
Yep.
All right, well, that was Yasmina interviewing some community members at the scene. And you can see this is upsetting to many people that were watching this in the area. They were saying, you know, this is not Atlanta. This is not what the city of Atlanta stands for, that this is very violent, and that the businesses and the business owners are now suffering because of all of this that is transpiring, people that had nothing to do with this in the area. But I do want to show you the damage that one business is dealing with. This is the main picture that we have so far that Yasmina took from on the ground. If you're just tuning in, again, this protest took place before 6 o'clock is when protesters from the Forest Defenders were on the ground on Peachtree Street. They were marching. Yasmina was behind the protesters with Joe, our photographer, and they were filming. And then that's when they say that chaos ensued and they started banging and bashing windows of other businesses along Peachtree Street. And then suddenly an Atlanta police car was set on fire. I do want to show you that image because our Atlanta News First reporter, Yasmina Alston, was able to capture the aftermath of that car that was set on fire. I'm going to pull that up right now and let you see that. And you can see that fire crews were on scene right in front of the Westin. Heavy smoke was filling the air. We're still working to find out if anyone was hurt when all of this happened. When Yasmina was talking to us earlier, she didn't mention any of that, but she did say that the crews were able to get this under control very fast. There was flashbangs going off in Yasmina's live shot when this all happened. And in case you don't know the backstory on this, if you're just now tuning in, we have to assume that more people are coming online as this continues to transpire in real time. Now, this all originally started earlier this week. It was on Tuesday is when a shooting unfolded at the police training center. It's also been called so-called Cop City. 5 people were arrested after this shooting for domestic terrorism. Many of them, all of them, were from the Forest Defenders activist group that is very upset and against this police training center being shared and built in our community. And tensions arose very fast, and a GSP officer was shot. He's now in the hospital. He went in the ICU. We're still working to get an update on how he's doing, but a protester was shot and killed after police returned fire. The protesters have had a vigil for that protester that was killed in the shooting, and that's really been the main top story of the week because the protesters have been very vocal. They have said that they are not going to stop protesting, and they are going to continue to take to the streets and protest the police training center and the fact that one of their own was shot and killed. And we're going to make sure that we keep you updated if we learn anything else from this scene. We're going to be cutting in at 9 o'clock for Atlanta News First on Peachtree TV. And at that point in time, we'll hopefully be able to get some more information about what's transpiring down here in downtown Atlanta. But at least right now, we can say it does look like it's peaceful and calm. We're going to let them, our camera crews and Yasmina, just take a moment to news gather, and then we'll check back in with you on all of our platforms. But that's the very latest from the Atlanta News First Desk.